Welcome to Stories from the Pitch, a podcast dedicated to creating a living oral history about street performing and some of the crazy characters who populate this world. I'm Magic Brian, your host for this growing collection of interviews. In this episode, on a windy day in December of 2019, Isaac Girardin spoke with Mallory Square legend, tightrope walking juggler Will Soto. Will's been street performing for 43 years, and he has the stories to show for it. Will talks about what it was like during the laid-back, free-living early days at Mallory Square, and how in the 80s they fought to keep the nightly sunset celebration alive by creating a non-profit corporation. He shares stories about performing over an alligator pit, his willingness to always take chances, and saving a man's life during one of his shows. From starting out as a sculptor selling his art at Renaissance festivals to being the face of Key West's Mallory Square, Will Soto has definitely left his mark and his legacy on the world of street theater.
This is Isaac Girardin here with Stories from the Pitch, and I am in Key West, Florida with the legendary Will Soto of Mallory Square. Say hi, Will.
Hi, Will.
Oh, okay. So, Will, I've only been in Key West a little while, but it didn't take me any time to find out that Will Soto is synonymous with Mallory Square. But before all that, what got you started in the industry? You've been here a while, but there was a time before Mallory.
Yeah. When I first came to Mallory in 1976, I was traveling as a sculptor. I was doing the art fair circuit, Renaissance fairs, some galleries, and but I had a background in gymnastics. I was a juggler by hobby.
Okay.
And so when I did the Renaissance fairs, I always ended up hanging out with the performers, practicing with them, and they busted on me all the time about, oh man, you're a closet performer, you should try it. And I was like, nah, I already got a profession. But something clicked. A couple of my mentors were finally, busted on me. Avner the eccentric being one. Avner Eisenberg, and Turk Pipkin, from legendary juggler from Texas.
Okay.
So they kept busting on me, and when I discovered Key West in '76, one of the first things I found was the sunset celebration. It was very small and local in those days.
Was it even a sunset celebration, really?
Well, we called it, we didn't call it a celebration, we just called it the sunset, simply. Mm-hmm. People would say, see you at sunset, or are you going to the sunset tonight? And it was before all the new bridges were built.
Okay.
In the 80s, so Key West was still an end-of-the-road sort of a place.
Kind of had to make an effort to get here.
Yeah, it was a hideaway. Dropouts, loners, but there was sort of a common thread of, what's the word for it? Maybe adventurism and, adventurers, rogues,
yeah,
travelers, sailors, artists, fishermen. Kind of an interesting mix of all of them.
Kind of sounds like a real Wild West.
Yeah.
Of entertainment and culture and art, though.
I have said it, a ton of times. I've described it as a kind of a frontier town when I got here.
Yeah,
it was. People didn't ask you your last name or what you did for a living. They just, if you were a good neighbor to them, they were good to you. That's all they cared about. Your handshake meant a lot.
Yeah. You're here. Yeah, you're here now. Here's a chance to restart if you choose to.
Yeah. Well, when I came to Key West, there was a few people hanging out at Sunset. I'm talking about a few. It was like maybe 30 or 40 people on a big night, and people were just sitting with their legs hanging over the edge and smoking and drinking, watching the sunset, and it was a no big thing, one or two drummers might come down, maybe a guitar player at the other end of the pier, occasionally a flautist, or it wasn't anything that was advertised or planned. It was just a spontaneous kind of sacrament where people came to watch the sun go down, and kind of end the day and start the evening. You know?
Yeah.
So.
And were there any performers at that time, or was it like that hippie drum circle type thing? Or?
Well, the drum circle vibe evolved. It did happen, but in the early days, we'd get a stray busker would come in now and then, and do something. And one day, Bounce and Locomotion Circus came in. Bounce and Cyrus.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had seen them do a show in New Orleans because I moved here from New Orleans.
All right.
So, and I always liked them. So when I saw them do a show here, I thought to myself, it was a real nice vibe, right next to the water, and it was a really friendly place. And I thought to myself, maybe I could try a show here. Maybe they'll laugh with me instead of at me.
And at this point, you'd left the Renaissance circuit, or you're taking a break from your sculpting Renaissance circuit?
I hadn't even taken a break. I had just finished the Coconut Grove show in Miami.
Okay.
In February.
Okay.
And ran into an old artist friend that I used to do Renaissance fairs with.
Okay.
And when we were getting ready to leave, his name is Dennis Blankenheim. He's here still. He said, "Come on."
Came to Key West and never left.
Yeah.
No.
He said, "Come on. We got a place on Stock Island. You should come down and visit." And I told him, "No, I'm gonna go back. I want to go back to New Orleans." And I don't know what happened. we drank some rum, crossed a bunch of bridges. And next thing I knew, I was at his place in Key West. And man, I knew it within probably 24 to 48 hours that there was something like magical about this place that I wanted to explore further. So when I found Mallory Square at Sunset Time, I went, okay, sign me up.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun. So yeah, I did my first show there.
And that's what I was going to ask. Had you ever performed before this? Because you had some mentors. Avner's no small guy, but
I sat in with a few people and did sort of a couple of impromptu shows in both New Orleans and Chicago, Lincoln Park in Chicago.
And at that time, was it mostly juggling, your gymnastics?
Mostly juggling.
Okay.
Pretty much strictly juggling, devil stick, the usual. The usual knives, fire.
Gotcha. It may not have been the usual then. I don't know. Before my time, for sure. But so you did your first show here. How was that?
Well, from what I can remember of it, it was quite a while ago.
All right.
The biggest impression I remember from that, I don't know if it was the first night or the first week or something. I started out and I was having just fun shows, really fun shows. And I remember riding my bike home. I had a little bag of equipment then.
Yeah.
I was riding my bike home after a show thinking, it was maybe after my first week, I thought, shit, I should have been doing this 10 years ago. This is more fun than I love sculpting, but it involves me being by myself in a workshop or somewhere, 8 to 10 hours at a time by myself.
I know that feeling. I used to be a crafter. I made thousands of devil sticks. That was how I made my living for 5 years, and I loved having people buy my products.
That's right.
But you know what? The 10 hours a day doing one thing repetitively to create that one unique piece for someone else.
As an artist, my only fun with it was, I got a certain amount, obviously, of artistic satisfaction from pieces that designs I really like.
Oh yeah.
But you know how it is as an artist vendor, you need to make what'll sell too. So you got your production.
90% of your work is not that stuff that makes you smile anymore.
So I was doing that stuff when I came here, and there wasn't. As soon as I started performing, I realized that, okay, if I'm going to get any good at this, I have to quit being an artist.
Okay.
Or not quit being a
crafter,
a salesman.
A salesman.
Art salesman, a merchant.
Yes.
So I gave away. I sold and traded most all my stock, gave away my tools, just cleared house.
Yeah.
And that's what I needed, you know. Then I started having big fun with it because I knew that, okay, now I have to develop this.
How did that feel, not having to truck around all this stuff and rolling up with a backpack of a show or something like that? That must be interesting.
The truth, as a traveling artisan, I wasn't carrying all that much.
No?
I had a pretty well broken down into some small bags and stuff. But, you know, the point was, instead of going somewhere by myself and making things and then coming out to a fun party and selling it, I was making this stuff and selling it at the same time once I became a performer.
And you're a part of the party.
Yeah, and not only that, that's more in keeping with my own personality. I love being around. I love working with people.
Yeah.
So even though I liked my artwork, it isolated me for long periods of time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely does that. I've always imagined I might come back to it one day, but
well, you always got that in your hip pocket. You know?
Yeah, that's exactly
and
it.
It's nice to have some other cards. Right now, I just am doing something that's very similar. I'm writing a book, and I'm literally on about the last chapter. And I tried to start, over a series of 5 or more years. And I'd write a chapter, and I'd put it down, and I wouldn't even look at it for another 9 or 10 months, you know. And so one day I decided, wow, man, if I want to do this book, I have to, like, get my mind right on it, like I did when I switched, because basically it's learning another profession.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do like when I started performing. So first thing I did was I called up and canceled my cable TV.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Because the cable TV was always on at our house. Just weather, sports, news, not even movies, just that stuff. It was always a distraction. So, of course, everybody in Key West keeps the Weather Channel on for the entire hurricane season.
That seems essential. That seems like a good call.
But I turned it off, and man, it was like turning on a faucet. I started cranking out, a new chapter every 2 weeks.
Wow, okay.
Because I'd come home and there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
And so I'd...
You can cultivate a little bit of
coffee, boredom. Have a quick smoke, and sit down at the computer, and boom. It was quiet, no interruptions. And it just started, once I started, it just started pouring out of me. And I went, okay. I should have been doing this 10 years ago.
It happens when it happens, though.
That's right. Timing's everything.
Do you know what's, I don't know how much you want to say, but what's the book about? This would be a great spot to plug it. You can make tens of dollars with these people.
It's called Key West Rogue Galleries.
Okay.
Rogue Galleries. And at the rate I'm going to, it'll probably be volume 2 and 3, because it's essentially true stories of absolutely oddball things that I've seen, either witnessed or experienced or whatever since I've been in Key West. It's all pretty much related to Key West.
Okay.
There's maybe of the 20 chapters right now, I think maybe 3 or 4 of them actually have to do with shows in Key West. But most of the other ones are like sailing stories or kayaking stories or fishing stories.
Yeah.
Or anything that's Key West related, that's nutty, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like you've been at the nexus for a lot, or real close to it for a lot of that. Could you share one of the performance stories? Don't give too much away, but Something crazy that's happened here. 'Cause I've heard a few from you already, but
Yeah, well, without giving away, talking about any other performers.
no, fair enough.
Sorry, I back up a little bit. I was gathering my crowd, and I was talking to a gentleman who was from Maryland, and just, you know, a normal tourist. He came down to fisherman, and
Okay.
he had just got a hot dog from the hot dog booth right next to me.
Yep.
And so he was eating his dog, and I was chatting him up a little bit while I gathered my crowd. Then I had enough people to start, so I'm giving my crowd instructions and then rolling into the first trick. And just as I'm spinning around on the first trick, the juggling trick, I see this guy like kind of leaning over the corner of my eye. So I looked again as I turned around, as I spun around again, and now he was leaning on someone and looked like he was having a problem.
Okay.
So I kind of kept performing, but I kept my eye on him until all of a sudden it looked like he was turning blue and going down on one knee. So I stopped what I was doing and ran over there. And the lady next to him says, "I think he's choking. I'm a nurse. Let me try." Heimlich him. So she did, but he was kind of a barrel-chested guy.
Yeah.
And she was really small. So she
Hard to
couldn't
get the arms around.
She wasn't getting any leverage. And man, talk about timing, as luck would have it.
Yeah.
I was working in those days as a personal trainer. And I had to renew my license. So like 2 days before this, I had just retaken the CPR course. And you know,
Yeah.
and Heimlich and the dummy, you know, the rubber dummy,
fresh.
So I went, woohoo! I grabbed him. I said, "Let me give it a try." I grabbed him and I spun him around, and man, I did him once, nothing. Twice, nothing. Third time, nothing. And I'm starting to think, "Oh, holy crap! This guy's gonna die in my arms." He's now totally limp, turning almost a blackish blue.
Oh.
And unresponsive, you know. So in order to, I had my arm still around him. In order to Heimlich him, I was pulling in towards me.
Yeah.
So now he was starting to, his legs were totally giving out. Mm-hmm. So I was holding him up, and in order to pull in towards me, I had to get him up a little higher. So I lifted him up and did it.
Yeah.
And that caused the action with my hands to go not in, but up.
Okay.
As soon as I did, man, came out a big ball of hot dog bun dough fired out of him like a big champagne cork, you know. And a big whoosh of air came out of him, you know. I set him down. I ran to a vendor right nearby and got some water and gave him some water, and he was okay. We got a chair from one of the vendors, and he went over to the side, sat on the chair, and I just went on with my show. As I looked around, I saw
good hat.
I saw people looking at me like a little like, "Was that part of the show? Did you set that up?" And make, you know. So I got done with the show. I looked around, the guy was gone, and I thought, "Oh, that's weird." You know, I kind of felt a little bond with him since we just went through this whole thing. So I didn't think anything of it. But about 2 weeks later, Amy and I were getting ready to go out, and I got a call from some guy. He says, "Hey, my name's, I think it was Tony. I don't even remember." He goes, "But I'm business partners with a guy named Bob Cole, and 2 weeks ago, he told me you saved his life by Heimlich." I said, "Oh man, what happened?" He goes, "Well, we live in Maryland." He goes, and I told him I was coming here for taking a week off and coming down here. So he said he made me promise to give you something and come see you. So he said, "Can you come over to where we're staying at our guest house?" I said, "Yeah, sure. We're just walking out the door now." So Amy and I went over there, and this guy and his wife were there. And he says, Bob, first of all, wanted to apologize. He goes, that he didn't see you after the show. He goes, he sort of had a an accident when you Heimlicked him and had to go change his clothes,
Yeah,
And I said,
that's understandable.
Yeah. And then he said we had a 6:30 in the morning flight, so he after that ordeal, he took a shower, went to bed, and then I had to leave. He didn't know how to get in touch with you. So he says, so here's a package. He gave me a little package. He goes, Bob told me to give to you. And so I opened it up, and there was this watch, a beautiful...
This watch you're wearing now?
Yes, a beautiful
okay.
Citizens solar-powered eco watch. This is from 10 years ago.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. And the watch was in there with a card. And he said, please call this number. So I called the number, and Bob answers. And he goes, okay, hang on a second. And he puts it on speakerphone, and his kids were there with him, say, thanks for saving our dad. So I got on the phone with his grandkids and the whole family. So it was really nice because he ended up being a really good friend.
Yeah.
And so I always told him, I said, boy, I'm glad I didn't save an asshole. I would have saved you anyway, but boy, I'm sure glad we did.
Yeah. Oh,
so, yeah. So that was...
Does he eat hot dogs anymore?
Yeah. We busted on it was a friend of mine that sold him the hot
I was
dog.
going to say, I think I know the hot dog guy.
Yeah. We busted on him for a long time for that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And every year on that, in February, on the anniversary of that event, I sent him a card or a text saying, chew your food, Bob.
Oh, that's great. So, I was wondering, who would... back again to the early years. We're jumping around. That's fine. Who you mentioned a couple of guys, but were there any performers that were like some key mentors, some key inspirations for you? That now we have the format, I guess, in busking. But were you even aware of this? Did you?
Yeah. Well, seeing as I was actually as an artist working many festivals and Renaissance fairs.
Yeah.
I was getting. A good preview of
kind of observing
the busking life, of what it was like, who was doing it, how they were, I had some good examples out there. And
just to pause, just because as a Canadian, I wasn't familiar with Renaissance fairs, and I know a lot of our listeners may not be as familiar. Can you describe sort of what a Renaissance fair show, because busking to regular show, some differences?
Well, a lot of the Renaissance fairs were recreated like 16th century English villages, and they had the juggler, the jongleur, as the French call it, and the court jesters and things of that nature, even jousting. Mm-hmm. And so those festivals are generally 4 to 6 weeks long.
Okay.
They create that village somewhere in a rural area and a rural private setting, and so it's a period theater festival because all the people, the artists, the performers are all in period dress.
Okay.
A lot of them speak with period accents or jargon.
Yeah. So like a pop-up community. 1 month is complete community. Just 400 years ago.
Yeah, right. There's a group called the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism.
Yep.
And they sort of set the pace.
Okay.
For all that stuff.
So you're watching performers, you're observing performers in that field.
Oh yeah, and the performers at the Renaissance fairs also work for tips, like they did in those. They're also, as a matter of record, they're also paid a per diem too.
Yes.
But they receive gratuities. They pass their hat, it's more a part of the cultural exchange than it is the financial exchange.
Yeah.
In setting that scene of those days. And yeah, I saw a lot of guys that inspired me in those days, in those earlier days, are now, I guess you would call them my contemporaries, but I still look up to a ton of them.
Yeah.
Arsène Lupin,
I don't know him.
Okay.
I'm sure our listeners do.
Also, but
another
French,
Will guy's young
yeah.
Will, but yeah.
French, all I could say is one of those classic clowns that just steals your heart.
Okay.
Makes you laugh, makes you sad, makes you feel.
Yeah.
He just doesn't make you giggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. He takes you through the whole range of emotions. Physical master.
Okay.
At comedy, and brilliant timing, everything. He's still performing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like you drew more from the clown side necessarily than the juggler side. You had juggler skills, but it seems like you had clown inspirations. Yes.
Well, the crazy thing is that I realized that juggling at that point was becoming more and more popular. And since I already knew how to juggle, it was a no-brainer to involve that into my show. And clowning itself never really appealed to me.
No?
But I always highly respected the clowns themselves and how good they were. I mean, it was something. It's like competition ice skating or something.
Yeah.
I find it beautiful, but there's no way I care to learn it.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that drove me as I developed was, I guess in a word, the threat of danger, which is why I ended up, like picking something like walking a tightrope and a high wire.
Yeah.
Because it's a challenge, but it's also not like, I mean, as we all know, juggling knives is only so dangerous.
Yeah. You could really bruise yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not
if
careful.
you needed to, you could do them like hand blade first.
Yeah.
Once you're good at it, but the walking a tightrope challenge every time you get on it.
Yeah.
So I like that. Challenge, focus. Challenge, I guess is the word. And I'm by nature an adrenaline junkie to begin with. So that gave me a little bit of a thrill, For 30 years I had maybe 35 years, I had my tight wire up at the edge of the water at Mallory. And right now I'm using my, that was tight wire. It was about 10 feet high. It was right on the edge of the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of things could go wrong.
A very good story about that in the book too. Yeah. Things can go wrong there, but also they could go way right too, because I went up in 25 to 30 knot winds sometimes.
Jesus.
Just because.
Can you? Let's try it.
Right. I needed to know
what could go wrong. Don't think about that.
I needed to know if I could. And as I became, I was also a windsurfing beach bum in those days.
Okay.
So windsurfing is the key to windsurfing is reading the wind on your body and in the sail that you're holding. Feeling the wind, reading it, reading the direction, feeling the gust building, stuff like that. It all ties or plays right into being on not only on a tight wire, but on a tight wire exposed at the water's edge, exposed to the fickleness of the wind. What's the word for it? It's not quite an obsession, but it was something that I needed. I needed that challenge every day, as often as possible.
Kind of a challenging muse.
Yeah, and it progressed through there. I progressed slowly up, to do one time at the New Orleans Jazz Festival, they said, well, they were the first festival that switched me from. I used to go there as an artist.
Okay.
When I became a performer.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Yeah, I told them I
said,
said, and they, you know, the directors knew me at that point.
Yeah.
They said, well, sure, you know, what do you want to do? So I said, well, I'm doing some tightrope now. So that'd be nice. And one of them said, oh, you want to put your rope up in the trees and point it up like that?
Yeah.
Some big oak trees. And I went, oh shit! I've never been higher than about 6 feet
And
yet.
what was this?
So this was about 20. I think if I remember it was correctly, it was about 22 feet.
Oh Jesus!
So it was hard enough to bust your butt, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, sure, I could do that. Never having ever.
Don't blink. Don't show fear. Go.
So I went up there and you know, I got a ladder and hooked it all up and put it up the day before I was supposed to walk on it. And I tried it. I'm telling you, my little legs were shaking like a leaf. But I got out, and the way I had it rigged, I couldn't even get off the other end because I had a come along built into it. So I walked all the way out to the middle, knelt down for my bow, and then walked backwards to where I started. You know, so and I was using a balance pole.
So you were or you were not?
I was.
You were using
I was using a balance pole, a really light one. As I found out later, I should have been using much heavier, but the day I was so nervous, the day I started doing it, I'm a firm believer in omens.
Okay.
And I climbed up the tree, I had the ladder there, and I climbed up the tree and had somebody hand me my pole. And just as I'm settling into the crotch on the tree where the branches come apart like that, trying to rest, I heard this little beep, 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 beep behind me. And I would go look around, and in the hollow of the tree, there's a bird there, a mama bird, whose eggs just broke open. And, hello, it's Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day in spring, you know, in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I went, oh, that's got to be an omen. I'm always searching for ornaments. Yeah, right.
I feel like that was a good omen.
Yeah. And so that calmed me down.
All
and
right.
I did my little show, and then I had got a lot more confidence from that.
Yeah, well, 6 to 22 feet. At that point, you
So
leapfrogged a few steps.
The next year, they said, well, you know, what do you want to do this year? And the guys that worked there, there was a foreman named Tag Richardson, and their production group was called Home Team in New Orleans. They do several, you know, a lot of festivals throughout the South, so but they're home base in New Orleans. He said, yeah, man, what do you need? You want to put up something higher?
Yeah.
I said, like, well, let's see. It'll be cool. Well, right next to stage one, there's a huge lake. Well, no, I didn't say lake. It's a huge pond. A small lake.
Small lake, huge pond.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, it'd be kind of fun to go across the lake. And he said, well.
Safer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soto, he said, no problem. We can go up on this hill here and that hill there and sink some telephone poles, because they had all the equipment, you know. What do you need?
That's great.
Bulldozer.
Telephone poles.
Yeah,
That's
backhoe,
awesome.
telephone poles. They sunk telephone poles. And it was so long, so far across, it was a couple 100 yards.
Okay.
That I had to do guy wires, capilettis off to the sides about every 30, 40 feet.
Okay.
To take the snake out of the main wire. And it took us 2 days to rig it.
All right.
Because I was learning my rigging as I was going along. Dave was a big help. He was a rigging guy, but I knew what I needed. You know, I knew what I needed it to feel like underneath me. So the two of us together designed a pretty good rig. So I walked it, and it was a big hit. So then that winter, they call. Oh yeah, you get this right. that year they called me up and they said, "Hey, you want to do it again?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "But I just did it like that." He goes, "Well, we got the rig up." He goes, "Can you think of anything else?" I said, "Well, I could walk it blindfolded."
Yeah.
And he goes, "You can do that?" I said, "Well, I never did it, but I'm pretty sure I can." And I said, "So what if I fall? It's in a pond."
Yeah.
It was. I'm guessing it was. I'll do a picture off for you sometime.
Sure.
It's probably at its height, 30 feet in the air, when the trees poles were coming off the little hill. And so this is funny. I get about I'm doing the walk. I get about halfway out, and I hear some people laughing.
Okay.
Cracking up and yelling at me and laughing, and I'm thinking to myself, "Holy shit! Would I have a fucking tear in ripping my tights or what?"
You got a blindfold on. You
I got
can't
a blindfold
check.
on.
Okay.
I'm carrying a pole.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're
whatever,
busy. Your hands are full.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just kept walking, and I got to the end. Somebody at the other end helped walk me in. 3 more steps, 2 more steps. I got to the thing, and they reached out and grabbed my shirt, pulled me in. I put my pull down, turned around, took my blindfold off, and these guys, the production crew, had put about a dozen inflatable alligators in the pond. They were all floating around. So that goes to yet another story. They called me up and they said, "Look, okay, we got a contract for a jazz festival in Orlando." They said, "You want to do it?" I said, "Yeah, sure. What? Let's do something." They go, "Something new?" I said, "Yeah, what?" I hear these guys all giggling in the background. I'm going, "Okay, you guys, what's up?" They go, "Well, we got Bobby Tiger, the Miccosukee alligator wrestler, is going to be there with his alligators giving a demo." They said, "We thought we could hook you guys together and put a pit of alligators, put you over a pit of alligators to do your show."
What are these guys doing, a DIY Jackass episode? What is it?
It is. It looks like a Busker Jackass thing. So I thought to myself, "Oh, well, here we go again, Yeah, sure, I could do it, So when I got there, I met the guy, Bobby Tiger, the alligator wrestler, and I go, "Bobby, I've been hearing about you for years." He's a Miccosukee
Are you good? I hope you're good.
I shake his hand, and he's got 1.5 fingers missing. And I'm thinking, "Oh, this can't be a good omen."
He still has his hand.
Yeah,
I've met a couple alligator wrestlers too, and nubs for fingers, but...
So they did. They've made a pit for the alligators, and Bobby goes, "How high are you going to put your rope, Will?" I said, "Well, how high can alligators fly?"
You're the expert on this one.
Right. So we didn't put it up that high because if I did fall in there, I didn't want to be injured on top of it and have to lay there.
You want to get out quick. Yeah.
I had about 7-8 feet high.
Okay.
And just enough to get over them in case they jumped up. They can really jump up about half their length. So,
alligators can get.
So they had
big.
a big sign that said, "Gator bait, Will Soto." So I get up there and I'm doing the show and I'm juggling and everything. I was using a rope this time, tightrope.
Okay.
On the rope, I'm juggling and everything, doing my whole regular show on the rope.
Oh wow! Okay.
And all of a sudden, an alligator snapping and popping underneath me. And I look out the corner of my eye, and there's fucking Bobby Tiger with his big pole poking the alligators and making them jump and snap and shit.
Asshole.
So when I got done with the show, I got down at the end, everybody,
Bastard.
everybody clapped, and I went in the back and I said, "Bobby, you got one hell of a sense of theater, brother." He goes, "Come on, Will." He goes, "Nobody wants to see him laying around snoozing." Fair. That's what I said. I said, "Yeah, you got it, buddy." We made him laugh. I said, "But who's going to clean these pants?"
That's That's great. That's so good. So, we're jumping all over, but why tight wire walking? Like, of the things you could have done easy, packed up, tight wire walking is generally not the one. But
okay,
like,
this is another fate intervention. Some of the people that also inspired me when I started were Bounce and Cyrus, you know, Locomotion Circus, and Bounce's partner Ooh La La. And
I know
she actually wasn't with him.
Is that Danny's mom?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know Danny. I met him on the.
I saw Danny almost be born. You know, I've known him since infancy.
Okay.
And actually, I met Ooh La La. Her name is Karen.
Okay.
At the Oklahoma State Festival, Oklahoma City Festival of the Arts.
Okay.
Before she was married to Bounce, we were happened to be working the same pitch, alternating, and I met her there. She was doing a one woman show called White Mule Circus.
Okay.
And so her, Bounce, and those guys. So she got together with Bounce. They lived in Key West. And I came over to visit him because, you know, I had met Bounce at Mallory and we're starting to get to be friends. And he had a little tight wire, like in his backyard.
Okay.
2.5, 3 feet high, maybe.
Okay.
That was it. And like I said, my background's in gymnastics. So I had a lot of balancing things going on. You know, I did side horse, horizontal bar, and tumbling.
Okay.
And so obviously I had to try it.
Wow.
I jumped up on it just to see how it was, you know, see what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I walked out on it, and literally in my first minute of being on it, I knew that it was my milieu. It was a place I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
I never, right from the get, never felt out of tune with it, I guess you'd say. I always felt comfortable with it. Started out on a wire, moved to rope, but it became, what happened is I felt so good at it, doing it. It made me feel so good, and I liked the challenge, that I got a rope, went to Bayview Park.
Okay.
Just put it up at the same level, just, you know, juggle it, just kept doing it, you know, falling and dropping it.
Yeah.
And and then you jump a little higher, and that's how that all started for me.
Okay.
It was, I could probably honestly say I never had any financial incentive to do it, because I really didn't even know how to market that, being a wire walker or a rope walker. But it was
good call in retrospect.
It was it was a personal challenge that I just cherished.
Yeah, it clicked with you.
Yeah. It started in that.
That's cool. So, now Mallory Square's been your home pitch for a while.
43 years.
For a while, yeah. Now, a lot of people we've caught over the years with this podcast, they're international performers. They travel quite a bit. I'm sure we've had some people that are dedicated more to one space, but you seem to have been this has been home pitch. This has been where
for several reasons. One, because this is my home, and that's, you know, an obvious place for me to be working. But number two, because I was amongst some of the first performers ever to work there. We are the ones that developed that pitch, so to speak. So it's like part of my family.
Yeah, and Mallory's unique. You didn't just develop it. People have founded pitches and they've continued. Mallory's unique. Mallory is a non-profit organization.
Well, what happened was Mallory started out to be totally impromptu. People coming together, watch the sunset, and it got to be I've sometimes said it was one of the last great hippie parties, but really there was everyone there. Fishermen, it didn't matter if you were a lawyer or who you were.
Everyone's an equal.
Authors, restaurateurs, people just came down to be themselves.
Yeah.
And we called everybody sunsetters, whether they were performing or just drinking wine,
Yeah.
And in those days, there was actually some, I guess you would call them fairly significant individuals that hung there. Tennessee Williams, Shel Silverstein.
Wow, all right.
Jimmy Buffett used to sit on a overturned 5-gallon bucket.
I've heard of him, yeah. I think he's going to make it big in Key West.
Right.
He keeps at it.
And so a lot of really talented people all the way through. Even Guy Laliberte, the originator and founder of Cirque du Soleil, came here in 1980.
Yeah.
He was a broke, long-haired hippie sleeping on my couch. And so we're still good friends.
Oh, that's good.
He's really, and he's taken such good care of us over the years. He sends us tickets to everything, invitations to everything, shows, parties. He's never forgot his buds from the old days.
That's cool. That's cool to hear that.
That's the kind of guy he is. So, man, there was all kind of people there, and but it didn't matter. Nobody asked your last name, like I said, or what you did for a living. You were just, if you were good to them that night, they were good to you that night. And that was all that mattered. Your handshake and your word. It got bigger. The party just naturally was, everybody, of course everybody smoked weed, went skinny dipping. It was like the kind of tropical party that you always hoped you'd stumble upon on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
But it was on a pier, but it was still the same,
Yeah.
When the sun went down, all the individual drummers that had been scattered around all came to the center of the pier, started playing together. At that point, everybody got something acoustic.
Yeah.
Bottles to bang, sticks to hit on the ash can, whatever. Yeah. And we got a nice drum circle going, and people skinny dipped, and then as it got darker, we got out the limbo stick and did the. Sometimes we made a bonfire. People came out of the water naked from skinny dipping and did the limbo. It was an unabashedly free party, and we really did not have many problems to speak of. It was sort of self-policed.
Okay.
And the policing that was there were sensible, I guess would be the word for it. I remember having a cop walk up to us one day while we were smoking a joint, and I didn't notice him until he was standing next to me, and I was taking a hit off it.
Can you not do that beside my car?
Yeah. He said, "Can you guys please at least go in the alley?" Don't compromise me. Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, the event got bigger. It was getting discovered. As Key West was. And it got bigger and it got bigger. And pretty soon it was a small economic engine.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of tourism, but what we had was creating a flush down Duval Street to the Sunset Celebration, and then a flush back every day.
Business
and the merchants started noticing that.
And the
they said we could tell you, by our cash registers what time it is by the people coming to Mallory. So the cities started getting cold feet about the fact that it was getting bigger, more and more dangerous things were going on.
Yeah.
Some people were coming in and reselling stuff like a flea market.
Yeah.
So they said, look, we're closing it down. Number one, we don't want a flea market there. Number two, we want to use that pier for cruise ships. And number three, we don't want to be responsible for what's going on there anyway.
Yeah.
So we formed. We first started some like rallies, community rallies.
Okay.
The place that's now the Maison de Pepe.
Yep, the little restaurant there.
Used to be a community center.
Oh, all
you
right.
could have weddings.
I was
or
wondering
whatever,
about that
big
building.
parties
It seems
or whatever.
real nice for
Yeah, it
a
is,
restaurant.
it is. So we had our rallies in there. People came from, we had big potluck dinners. People came from all over the community and supported us. It was just basically the politicians and a few businessmen that had their eyes on their own commercial interests out there.
Yeah.
Now they saw something was happening.
Yeah.
They were the ones that wanted us out of the way. And so we had probably 6 months of contentious city commission meetings.
Okay.
They started out by actually arresting some of us, arresting performers for not having a license when there really wasn't a license.
Yeah, no such thing.
Arresting artists for selling without a license, but there wasn't a license. Well, so anyway, let me finish that real quick.
Arresting, yeah.
They, they were even arresting people for loitering in a city park. So all the charges, we actually had a bunch of pro bono lawyers that jumped up, guys that were just dropouts and they weren't practicing anymore, but they were giving us
hanging
clues.
out there too.
They were hanging out there too, and they were giving us tips on what to do, and they got, all the charges got dropped because they were bogus, and then the city started talking to us. We started going to the meetings and having our little rallies, and we finally said, look, we formed a nonprofit corporation. If you don't want to, we have the support of all these people in the business community.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be responsible for the event, we will be. We'll get liability insurance, and we'll have waivers. And if you don't want it to be a flea market, we'll screen everyone to make sure they sell only what they make.
Yeah.
Handmade in Key West. And the third thing was that we just talked to the cruise ships, and they don't really want to be here at sunset time. They want to go out, and serve dinner, and open their casinos.
Yeah.
So we answered all their questions and all their fears, and they were like, they said, look, all those places around Mallory Square, you lease to people, the Waterfront Playhouse, the restaurant, Ed Swift's Village. Those are all, the aquarium, those are all owned by the city, and you lease them out. Why don't you lease us to Pier for like 4 hours a day, 2 hours before sunset, 2 hours after?
Yeah.
And at that point, they really didn't have any more, we kind of took the air out of all their...
Didn't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, so they said, well, okay, we'll give you a trial lease for 6 months. If anything goes wrong, that's it. You guys are out of there. And I'm not even sure we were confident nothing would go wrong, But nothing went wrong. Everything was fine.
Yeah,
so
it went wrong so far.
They gave us another one, another year, and then 3, then 5, and now we're on 5 years renewable. And we just signed a new one last month.
This is a Cultural Preservation Society. So when did that start? Do you have a rough?
I believe in 1984, in the same year that we got our lease.
Wow. All right. And were you aware of anything else, even in the world, like as far as a pitch or performance space that was operating quite on that? I mean, I'm not aware of anything like that now.
We weren't.
So
we weren't. We were flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah. Performers and artisans taking on the whole shebang.
Well, and it was community wide because, like I said, there was, I can think of at least 3 attorneys they're now cheeses in town. They're big cheeses.
Yeah.
But in those days, they were either just starting. It was actually a dropout.
Okay.
And so with their legal guidance and Captain Tony's presence, Captain Tony meant a lot.
Tony?
Captain Tony was the godfather of Sunset.
Okay.
You know why? Captain Tony, he was my mentor.
Okay.
And he was all those things that everybody thinks about Key West. He was a bar owner. He was a smuggler, a gun runner, a bookie, a fisherman, the mayor. He was the mayor at one point.
He was the mayor at one point.
Yeah. And he was all those things, and everybody revered Captain Tony. And probably at the top of that list would have been womanizer. And
I heard that from a ghost tour too.
Yeah.
I think I know.
And he was like the most lovable womanizer you ever met. He would charm a woman out of her panties right in front of her husband, and he he would laugh and shake his hand. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah, he'd say to us, "Oh, you're beautiful. You should go to Las Vegas with me." And he'd say to the husband, "And you should come too, man. We could have a good time. We'll gamble. We'll all go out to eat. You know. Let's show your wife a good time."
Oh,
he was funny. But anyway, he was the one, man. He said, "Look," he said, basically, this is what he told me privately. He said, "These guys are trying to shove you guys out the back door."
Yeah.
And it's not for any of what they're telling you. They said they got their cash register sites set on this place. He goes, Captain Tony was already had what's the word for it? He had notoriety.
Okay.
So he had already had a movie made about him and a book written about him.
Okay.
So he called up all his media friends, you know, TV,
yeah.
All newsprint,
yeah,
all these people, New York Times, L.A., Miami, all these people came down, reporters and shit, to all these meetings. So it's like Tony said to me, he goes, "Let's turn on the lights, see how many cockroaches are running around here. You know? Turn on the lights and watch the cockroaches run." And he made them all of a sudden, these guys started changing their tune when they had a big camera and a microphone in their face about what they were doing, you know. So it was a lot of things. You know, it wasn't just the 7 people that formed the nonprofit, or it wasn't just this or that guy, or it was just the right amount of people at the right time.
That perfect storm in the right direction.
And there you have it. Now we have Sunset Celebration.
Wow. And now, as I understand it, you even have a scholarship program.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single pitch in the world that has a scholarship program.
Yeah. we gave out several scholarships this year. And one of them to one of our little Busker.
Oh yeah, I remember her. I came through when she was on her way out, or I was on my way in, or something like that.
She's going to college on her scholarship now.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I would love to see. I'd love to see more places do that. I know up in Canada we have a lot of government-regulated pitches, and boy, that's fun. Can't make that joke about sitting around. An audience member leaning on something. What are you, a government worker? Can't make that joke. They will and have asked me not to. No scholarships there. But so, as a guy who's worked a lot on a home pitch versus traveling, is there any pros, any cons that like have come up? Anything you?
Oh Jesus, 43 years.
Well, the short list of them then.
Yeah. First of all, my first 20 to 25 years, I spent 5 to 6 months on the road.
Okay.
Yeah, just like most young buskers do these days. I worked the West Coast. I worked everywhere from Seattle down to Portland, San Francisco, Venice Beach, Balboa Park.
Okay.
All the way up and down the West Coast.
This was the early 80s or?
Early 80s.
Okay.
Early 80s. And I worked all across the South, the East Coast. I've worked in the Midwest, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Detroit, Memphis.
Okay.
So I got my traveling in, and now I'm like, I'm 73 now. I don't want to it's like I told somebody the other day, I'm not out there closing the discos anymore. And he said, "Well, there hadn't been a disco in 25 years." I said, "Yeah, see that?
See, exactly.
Quit going to them."
I think they're coming back. They're coming back. Everything old is new again.
Right. So now you see it. We are sitting where I want to be.
Yeah.
Now I'm in my garden, working in my garden and swimming off the back deck, and life is good.
Writing your book.
Yeah, writing my book.
There is one thing. Now, I've watched your show a few times, and I've watched a lot of shows at Mallory Square a few times. And one thing that strikes me about you specifically is whether it's a big audience or a small audience, and everyone has a little bit of an edge, but you can tell. Whether it's a big audience, a small audience, a good audience or a bad audience, you always have a smile. You always come across, and maybe it's a very good act, but you always come across like you still love what you do. This is not true for everyone. You don't need to name names. But you still come across like you love what you do. How do you do that after 43 years?
Okay. Well, it's twofold, really. Number one is I do love it. And so, as anyone that's a veteran knows that, every night's not going to be great.
No.
So, some nights when a crowd is like really dragging or whatever, if you can find 3, 4, 6 or 8 people that are having a good time out of your crowd of 150, and the other ones are just staring at you, well, just focus on those 6 or 8 that are having a good time, and have a good time yourself.
Yeah.
So that allows you to not think about, how much am I going to make? It just allows you to have a good time with some people and share a good thing. But now, a little background on that. I had a bad show one night. Small crowd. Had some guy that was a horrible heckler.
Yeah.
And I lost my temper on him.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I sort of rudely told him what I thought of him,
All right.
without pulling too many punches.
Yeah.
And, I had only a 20, 25 person crowd. It was a small crowd.
Yeah.
But I just told this guy basically to, hit the bricks, and I ended my show. In that crowd was the producer of one of the biggest festivals in the country.
Yeah.
I had worked for it once before.
Yeah.
Never worked for him again, ever.
Damn.
Yeah. And I saw the look on his face as he walked away. And, oh man, it cut me so deep. I went, okay, I learned a big lesson here today.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Don't, no matter how bad of a show you're having, try and let it go, or go yourself.
Yeah.
I did. I had a show one night that was so bad. I had drunks, I had whatever, hecklers, I had people. The other crowds
No idea
cursing
what you're
in
talking
English,
about.
cursing in English,
Okay.
And so, in my old days, in my younger, more volatile days, I would have said something like, hey, if you want to watch a monkey jump around, you should save your money and go into the Miami Zoo.
Yeah.
And nowadays, and that would have made everybody pissed off, and and I wouldn't have really had much satisfaction other than going off, So nowadays, if it's really, really bad like that, I might do something like, and I have, say, excuse me, I have a really bad stomach ache, and I will excuse myself to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And when I come out of the bathroom, I go the other way, just leave. Go over to the bar if it's on the bed and drink. Peek over there once in a while and see if anybody left.
Just let them watch you.
Right. Is he coming back?
He's got a margarita. Is that a salad? That's great.
So yeah. There's no. All you're doing when you're losing it is you're hurting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're hurting yourself. And although you really like to say something to some people, and I have been guilty of that my own self, but you can't be too rude.
Yeah.
You can't be too rude.
Yeah.
I don't mind. My motto about aggressive humor is that you can make as much fun as you want of anyone in your crowd, as long as it's not vulgar, and as long as you make fun of yourself.
Yeah.
You got to make fun of yourself.
Yeah.
And that makes it okay.
Punch yourself.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, right.
That's fair. your rig. You told me this story before.
The one I'm using, my little convention rig?
Yeah. I would love to just... I just want to hear it again. I think it's such a funny story because you were traveling and it was the farmer story.
I was staying in Florence, Oregon. I went out there and was spending the season there, really.
Yeah.
And the first month or so, I was working
Renaissance
I was working Old Town in Portland.
Okay.
Which was about 2.5 hours away from where I was staying. So I go into Portland on the weekends, which is the only time Old Town was open to busking. And I realized that when I was in Key West, I had several different kind of rigs that I could set up and actually fasten to things, immovable objects on the pier, like ship cleats and things like that, you know.
Yep.
To put tension on it. But there was nothing or I could go between two trees in a park at a festival or whatever. But there was nothing to tie to there in Old Town. So I started thinking, I'm going to build a little portable rig.
Yeah.
And I went to these guys that had like a aluminum shop.
Okay.
I told them, and they made me a rig sort of the size that I wanted, but it sucked. It bent. It was wobbly. It just wasn't sturdy enough.
Yeah.
And so I used it once and almost killed myself on it.
Oh, jeez.
So that weekend, that next week, I was commiserating to one of my neighbors. I was having coffee with a gentleman who was like a farmer down the road. And I said, yeah, man, I can't believe it. I thought these guys would hook me up, but they gave me he asked me how it was. I said, it's a piece of crap.
We charged you a lot for it, too. Shop rates.
Yeah, actually, I should have been aware. I should have known right off that they didn't charge me a lot.
Oh,
it should have told me something. Yeah.
Oh no.
It should have told me something, but it didn't. But because anyway, my friend says, "Well, look, Will," he goes, "Why don't you come on over to my place, and we'll see what kind of steel I got in my barn. See if we can put something together." And it turns out all that was, and I needed this rig to use for a month.
Yeah.
That was in 1992. Yeah. So we went, and he had all this like black steel, really strong steel.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
Yeah, heavy stuff. My rig's heavy, but
it looks it.
yeah. But that's what you need. You don't need it jumping around and bouncing around underneath you.
Yeah.
And so, and it all comes apart into small pieces, so I could travel with it.
Yeah.
Some assembly required.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it ended up costing me, I think, $200 and a case of beer.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
That's really not bad for some quality farmer engineering that's lasted you over 2 decades.
I'm sure this gentleman is not alive anymore. I mean, that was quite a few years ago, and he was in his late 70s at that point.
Okay.
But yeah, man, we sat in the barn and, well, what about this piece here? You know.
It's like assembling a costume out of a thrift store, except that's great. So you've seen, I think one of the most interesting things that I've seen out of Mallory is you've had a generation, maybe two, of performers come up and through. It's almost like it's a circus club, it's a performance space, it's an open mic, it's everything. I have often referred to it as an incubator for the arts. Yeah.
For the performing arts.
Absolutely.
Because it is. We've had people come over the years, just like the young lady that got the musical scholarship this year. She came as a young girl in grade school and learned to play her first guitar chords out there. And now this last year she was she performed at the musicians festival.
Okay.
She got our scholarship. She got a scholarship from the university she's going to study music, also music and theater. So it's an incubator for all kind of arts. When when our three juniors, local juniors, Jace, Blue, and Reed started, they were in Jimmy Ray's junior high juggling club. He was I think Jimmy Ray was their art teacher, actually. We started a juggling club. Yeah. Jimmy Ray's really good friends with Bounce. This is from town.
Yeah.
So they learned to juggle, and when they learned to juggle, they started coming down. They say, Jimmy asked me, he goes, could you help me give him some direction here at Mallory? So I said, yes.
Show direction?
Yeah, show direction, what to do, how to, go about it. So I said, okay, look, I'll do 3 weekends every Saturday morning.
Yeah.
I'll do a 4-hour workshop on street theater. And so they came, and
that's quite a dedication of your time for some high school kids at that point.
Fuck, we needed it.
Yeah.
When we're how how it is. People love to mentor. They do, and I saw that they were all prospectively really good jugglers. They were improving quickly. So I gave them a tutorial on how to build a show.
Yeah.
How to create it. Like if you were writing an essay, a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
Which Blue still uses in his show.
Yeah.
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 You got an introduction. You want to introduce yourself, and you want to tell the audience what you're going to do and what you expect of them.
Yeah.
Then you got the middle, which is all your material, and then the conclusion is your hat pass.
Yeah.
And so, in addition to that, we had a lot of little exercises on communication.
Yeah.
How do you build images?
Yeah. Yeah.
Touching them, eye contact, throwing them something, building bridges.
Yeah.
And knocking down their barriers.
Yeah.
If they got their arms folded, throw them something. You'll break their barrier and form a bridge.
Yeah.
If you throw them a ball. Little exercises like that.
Yeah.
Class. And then the third week, I had them all now with all the tools we gave you.
Yeah.
Design your own little show.
Okay.
And the third week, we had a show out there. I also did the same thing in Chicago, too.
All right.
And
this would be in the late 90s, early 2000s?
In Chicago?
Well, just in
you
general,
mean this?
This sounds like quite a format you have. This wasn't just...
the first time I did it was in the early 80s in Chicago. And I did it once there, I did it once in New Orleans in the late 80s. I did it here, and for the kids. Well, let's look at it. So it was in the early 2000s because the kids, I think, are like 27, 28 now, and this is when they were 10.
Yeah.
So I have pictures of them doing the show like when they were 10.
Yeah.
All three of those guys in there were like little kids. Even Jace was a little kid. He was like kind of like their size.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, we've had people. We had one young lady that came down, learned how to play the violin. Unfortunately for the people next to her, she was, tough to take the first year.
Ooh,
she got so good, she started coming every year and sending herself to music camp by what she made at Mallory. Now she's like really good.
Okay.
So seeing people develop like that out there is, it's like watching your own family or kids grow.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I was going to say that perspective, that longevity to watch all that.
Yeah. That's it. And the real old school buskers, I think, all understand that.
Yeah.
It's our profession. And if you want it to flourish, you gotta, keep feeding it and fertilizing it.
Yeah, passing it down.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any notes for new performers? Any notes for old performers?
Well, for new performers, I always say this: like, don't worry about having a bad night because, everybody has a bad night. No matter how good you are, eventually you have a bad night too. It's just that as you get better and better, you have fewer of them. But they're always going to be there, so don't take it personal. You get done, if you have a bad night, let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Come back with renewed vigor the next day. To the general, I guess this would be to all. This is just an observation of mine.
Okay.
As a profession, there's some nights when you really have the energy. It's all about energy. Some nights you have it, and they don't have it.
Yeah.
Some nights they have it, and you don't.
Yeah.
And you can get it from them.
Yeah.
The nights that neither of you have it are long nights. Those are the ones you dread, but it happens.
Yeah.
The nights or days when you both have it is what you're living for.
Yeah.
That's when it's wild and it's all's right with the world.
Another edit brought to you by courtesy of the U.S. Navy.
Yeah.
Fly Navy.
My boys up there.
So the nights that you don't have it, and they don't have it.
Those are long nights, and that's those are the ones that scar you psychically. But you got to let them go.
Yeah.
Just let it go. It's they're going to be like that. But the nights that you both have it are the ones that make it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
They reaffirm what you're doing it for.
Yeah. And I guess the only thing I can think of to wrap this up is anything you would have done differently. That's usually a good answer.
No, we can't go there.
All right, that's another story. Okay, get the book, buy the book.
Right. When you fall down, get up. That's my only advice to anybody. We all fall down, and falling down doesn't define who you are. How you get back up does.
You know what? I think that's a great place to leave this.
Good.
Thank you so much, Will.
My pleasure.
Thank you for giving me such a good time. Thank you for being my best friend.
I want to remind everyone that we have a brand new logo and new merchandise, so if you'd like to support the podcast and show off the cool new design, head on over to our online store. The link is in the episode notes. And a huge thank you to those of you who already bought t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. Speaking of supporting the podcast, if you'd like to become a sponsor of the podcast or know someone who would, contact me at magic@buskerhalloffame.com. You can also visit the Busker Hall of Fame website and throw a little love into our online hat by clicking on the donate button, or become a sustaining supporter of this project at patreon.com/Busker Stories. Thanks in advance for supporting this project and helping keep busking history alive. Your support of the podcast will allow us to get new episodes out more frequently and improve the quality of the recordings. If you want to support Will, buy his book, Rogue Diaries. There's a link to where you can purchase it in the episode notes. Music for this podcast came from 357 Lover. Links to both songs are available in the notes section of this episode on the Busker Hall of Fame website. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell a friend about it and leave us a 5-star review. It'll help get us noticed, and we'd really appreciate it. If you'd like someone to be interviewed or you feel a certain voice has not been heard, please reach out to me and let me know. We're doing our best to capture interviews and stories with as many performers as we possibly can. It's up to you to help fill in the gaps. So on behalf of myself, Isaac Girardin, who captured the interview, Kim Potter for putting together the YouTube slideshow, and the rest of the team of the Busker Hall of Fame, remember, if you can't laugh at yourself, find someone else and laugh at them. I'm Magic Brian. Thanks for listening.